We're going to be looking at 2 Kings this morning, looking at the story of Naaman. How God showed up in his life, the need that he had. You know, we are always in a fight between the bad, the good, and the best. It's easy to define the bad and the good. Well, it's gotten a little grayer these days, hasn't it? With everything that's taking place around us, our morality is being redefined, and we are becoming more comfortable with a new morality that surrounds us, unfortunately, and to the detriment of the Lord our God. And so it's easy, for the most part, to define between the bad and the good. The problem we have is defining between the good and the best. Because it's easy to just accept the good. Jesus in Matthew 25, you don't have to turn there, but in Matthew 23, Jesus looked at those law Pharisees and teachers of the law, and he says, "Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should practice the latter without neglecting the former." And so what is he saying here? He's saying, yeah, you're trying to do some good things. We come into God's house and we're God's people. And I have no problem thinking that we want to do good things. I have no problem thinking that we're good people. I have no problem thinking that sometimes we get enamored with the gift instead of the giver of the gift. And you see, there's a difference between the good and the best. There's a difference between just trying to do good things, but coming into the presence and power of the Spirit of the living God and Him changing us and putting us on a higher plane that takes us to realms we never thought we could arrive at, but we can do exceedingly abundantly more than we can ever ask or think, according to His power at work in us. There is a possibility, but we have to be aware of that. Naaman understands that he has a need. And Naaman thinks that his need is to be cured of leprosy. And that will be a good thing that happens. But there's so much more that needs to be done in Naaman's life. And in chapter 5 here of 2 Kings, the Bible says, "Now Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Syria, was a great and honorable man in the eyes of his master, because by him the Lord had given victory to Syria. He was also a mighty man of valor, but a leper." Well, let me just say here that Naaman is a Gentile, and Naaman serves a king who does not worship the Lord our God. But by the same token, you're going to see, and he's going to experience some incredible grace here. And I will remind us, sitting in this place this morning, that God's mercy and God's grace is not dependent on whether we are good or not. God's grace and mercy is completely dependent on His prerogative and His nature, that He has chosen to lavish those things on us. He has chosen to love us. Our sin does not negate God's love. Now, and we always have a little bit of legalism in it, so I always have to add this. But God carries a big stick, and He can use the stick if needed and necessary. But overall, God's love will never be short-circuited because of our sin. For God came into the world to save the world, not to condemn it. God came to us that we might know Him, experience Him, He might reveal Himself to us, and we might have eternal life. But Naaman does not understand any of that. All Naaman thinks is, I've got a need, and I need to get something fixed. It's going to happen, but it's not going to be made based on any merit, any goodness, anything that he's done, his victories. because he is a great and honorable man does not mean that he deserves what's going to happen to him. None of us do. It is simply the grace of God. Verse 2, and the Syrians had gone out on raids and brought back captive a young girl from the land of Israel, and she waited on Naaman's wife. And she says to her mistress, if only my master were the prophet who is in Samaria, for he would heal him of his leprosy. So you have this wonderful possibility here. Naaman's ears are perked up. And Naaman, if you've got a big enough need and somebody comes along and they suggest something that might cure that need, you're going to listen to it probably. Just don't get it on the internet. You may not work out that well. Verse 4, and Naaman went in and told his master, saying, thus and thus said the girl who is from the land of Israel. Then the king of Syria said, go down, I'll send a letter to the king of Israel. So he departed, took gold and silver with him, took a letter, and the letter is going to be very disconcerting to the king of Israel, because it says, now be advised, verse 6, when this letter comes to you, that I have sent Naaman my servant to you, that you may heal him of leprosy. And of course the king says, what? So the king tears his robe, his clothes, verse 7, am I God to kill and make alive, that this man sends a man to me to heal him of leprosy? Therefore, please consider and see how he seeks a quarrel with me. So the king of Israel says, well, the king of Syria is just trying to pick a fight, because nobody can cure leprosy. Well, maybe they can. Verse 8. So it was when Elisha, the prophet in Israel, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes, he sent word to the king, saying, why have you torn your clothes? Please let him, Naaman, come to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel. Then Naaman went with his horses and chariots. He stood at the door of Elisha's house. Now get a picture of this. You have this guy who's second in command in Syria. He's used to people bowing and scraping. He's used to honor and glory. And he comes to this probably humble house of Elisha, and with his horses and chariots and his gold and his silver, he's going to pay. He's willing to pay a big price. It's in our terminology today, looking it up, it'd be about $1 million he's brought with him to pay. And so what happens? Verse 10. And Elisha just sent a message out to him saying, go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored to you, and you shall be clean. What happens to Naaman? Verse 11. Naaman became furious, and he went away and said, indeed, I said to myself, if he will surely come out to me and to stand and call on the name of the Lord his God and wave his hand over the place and heal the leprosy, are not the Abana and the Pharpar of the rivers of Damascus better than all the waters of Israel? Could I not wash in them and be clean? So he turned and went away in rage. And so his servants came back up to him and said, Naaman, he said, if he had asked you to do some big, important, powerful thing, wouldn't you have done it? How much easier just to do what he said. And so Naaman humbles himself, and he goes down to the Jordan and he dips 7 times, and he comes up and he's got skin like a new young boy. That's a great story, isn't it? There's several things in here we need to see. Number one, we do realize, just like Naaman, that we all have a need. There's some kind of need that we have. Our basic need is just that God would save us, that we would have a relationship with Christ, that God would restore what's been lost. Our ancestors in the Garden of Eden sinned. They were in a perfect environment. They had a wonderful relationship, God walking in the cool of the evening. God had set it all up so it would be just a wonderful thing, but he didn't want robots. He didn't want them just because they had to. And so we have this free will that came into play. And in that free will, they heard the voice of the evil one speaking to them, and they said, well, that doesn't sound too bad. And so they reached out and took hold of what God said, do not take hold of. They were enticed. And because of that, here we are today. We have this greatest need of relationship, this greatest need of salvation, this greatest need to plant our feet in heaven and escape the hell that waits if we don't. There's a reality to this. Naaman thinks he has a need here. And it is so easy to miss the miracle that God wants us to have. It's so easy to miss the miracle. Because just like David, he's already worked this thing out in his mind. He's got his fortune together. He's willing, and he just thinks, if I can just be healed of leprosy, if I can just get rid of this problem that I have. And you and I are sitting here this morning, and we have all these things going on in our lives, in our families' lives, and the world around us. And we think, God, if you would just do this, or God, if you would just change them, or God, if you would just help me, then everything would be great. So let's apply that to Naaman a minute. So Naaman, Elijah heals him, and Naaman is completely restored, and so he's had his need met. And Naaman gets in his chariot, and he goes back to Syria, and he just begins to do what he used to do and who he was. And he's happy and he's content, and nothing has changed. But what ultimately has happened? Naaman has missed the greatest opportunity in his life, if he did this, and that's all he did, to encounter his God. We are so enamored and so desperate for the healing that we're willing to settle for the healing instead of settling for the healer. We're willing to just receive what God has for us instead of receiving what He wants from us, relationship. God has made a way that you and I can stand in His presence no matter what's going on in my life and what's going on in your life, no matter what loss you may be experiencing right now. And I'm looking at a road here that's at 2 o'clock this afternoon, we will say the last farewell to a loved one. We are always a needy people. And our mistake is that we try and get a fix for the need. We try and take some temporary salve and rub it on our sore to get some kind of relief. And just like Naaman is going to find out, the greatest need we have is not just some salve for a sore. The greatest need we have is to know the one who is able to do exceedingly abundantly more than we can ever ask or think. The one who's willing to not only die on the cross for us, but He's willing to give Himself to us. You see, we think, God, I just want a piece of peace. If you'll just give me a little peace. And what God is trying to get us to understand, that peace is a person. Peace is Christ. It is His presence in us. It's not a concept. It's not an idea. It is a reality of who He is and who He wants to be in my life and your life. And so we're willing to, God, just give me some peace. And God's saying, there's more to this package than you understand. I am the peace package. I'm not just going to give you a fresh new feeling, some kind of escape from the problem that you're in, but I'm going to give you myself. And if you will follow me, if you will pay attention to me, if you will do what I ask you to do, if you will allow me to be present in your life, then you're going to experience everything you want to experience. You're going to get everything out of it that you want to, and more than you ever dreamed of. You see, that's the promise of God to His people. I will be with you. I will never forsake you. I will love you. I will grace you. I will pour my mercy out on you. But we settle for just a little bit of good. Naaman was going to be satisfied with just get rid of this leprosy. Just get this spot off of me and I'm going to be fine. No, he wouldn't. After that, there'd be something else and something else. Isn't there always something else? Have you ever noticed you get over one thing and then there's something else? Or there's someone else? I mean, and how do we escape? We look for avenues of escape. We think, well, maybe if I try this or try them or go here or do that or get this. And it doesn't have to be bad. We're looking for the good. That's a wonderful thing. But God stands there and He says, don't miss the miracle. Don't miss what I have for you. Don't settle for just what you think. And isn't that what Naaman's problem was? Naaman had it all worked out in his mind. That's why he was so mad. He just had this picture. He's got his chariots and his gold and his silver, and he's going to pull up in front of Elijah's house, and Elisha is going to come running out, and he's going to say, my brother, my friend, and he's going to dance around him, and he's going to burn some incense or something, and he's going to slap him on the back, and he's going to, and just tell him, and Naaman just had that movie picture all in his mind of this is how this is going to work. And then this servant comes in. How demeaning. How demeaning for us sometimes when we think, God, why don't you hear me? Why don't you pay attention to me? Why can't I find you? Why can't I hear you? Why aren't you speaking to me anymore? And we have this concept that, and we work it out in our mind now. If I just do this or I do that, if I just, and we get our own theories together, we get our own doctrine together, we get our own, and that's why we have so many religions and so many things going on in our world this day. So many people seeking so many avenues, and we just come together and we just make it up as we go along what we think it should look like or what it will look like. Truth is not based on what I decide it is. Truth is just truth. It stands on its own. And so, Naaman, he's so close. He's right at the door. He's right there. Everything he thinks he ever needed is right there. The payment is ready to be made. He's placed all his eggs in that basket. But Elisha, and by the way, we can get a little picture of the prophet there, kind of like our picture of God, can't we? Our Elisha, our God. And we think, now God, I'm trying. And I'm doing some good things here, so don't I deserve a little bit of relief here? Naaman had to be humbled before Naaman could be healed. When we come to God, we don't come with our wants, our wishes, and our demands. We come to God by humbling ourselves, by falling down in front of Him, by trusting that He knows what our actual need is. And by the way, wouldn't we expect that He really knows what it is? Isn't it always interesting when you hear people pray and they try and explain to God the situation they're in, like He's never heard it before? God, you know, I've broken my foot here, and you know how bad it hurts, and you know the little toe's swollen more than the big toe. And you know, I've been to the doctor, and the doctor said this, and it's the worst he's ever seen. You remember that, God? He said it was the worst he's ever seen. And here's what I need you to do, God, and we explain, and we make God out to be somebody that has no sense, no understanding, no concept of what's going on in our lives. Maybe we just need to humble ourselves and realize that God does know, that God does care, that God is aware. And maybe my part is not explaining it, but maybe my part is just humbling myself before God and just saying, as the Hebrew children said, He's our God and we're going to follow Him, but even if He doesn't come through, He's still God. He's still God. That's the concept, that's the faith that we have to come to with God. We may lose a loved one, we may have a relationship that is broken, we may have kids that go off down the road and we have tried to pour ourselves into them and good into them, and they have gone their own way, and life hasn't worked out, and the job suddenly ends, and the finances are falling apart, and all those things are happening to us, and maybe we just need a fresh dip of faith. Maybe we just need a fresh touch from God. And maybe we just need to come to a place of realizing that if this thing, if our God is real and everything He says here is true, and the promises that He has given us will never be eradicated or erased or revoked, and if all those things are in play, then we have to come to a place of putting our trust and ourselves in the hands of a God who can mold us and shape us into whatever He wants to mold us and shape us into, take us whichever direction He wants to take us, do with us whatever He wants to do. You have Peter preaching to thousands of people, and thousands get saved. You have Stephen preaching to the same crowd, and they stoned him to death. In God's economy, it's hard to figure out these things sometimes. But that's where our faith is. What does Elijah tell Naaman? He says, Naaman, I want you to go 32 miles in that direction. You'll find the Jordan River, the muddy Jordan River, and go dip yourself in it 7 times. Naaman says, the rivers 100 miles away are cleaner and better. And it only makes sense. It's got to be something about, and it only makes sense if I'm going to dip in the water and it's going to heal me, then shouldn't the water be clean instead of muddy? And I can go back to Syria and I can find clean water. It runs out of the mountain, it's crystal clean. Doesn't that make more sense? And Naaman is willing to not trust what the prophet is saying to him. He's willing to go 100 miles instead of 32 miles to find his need met, to find his cure. Aren't we like that sometimes? In our understanding of God. And listen, I'm not saying that God always makes sense. We've got a little granddaughter here that has never made sense. But we have to come to a place of trusting the God who doesn't make sense. That He has our good at heart. And He is trying to mold us and shape us into the very image of His Son. And there is a huge trust factor in this. Naaman looking at it thinking, why would I go dip in muddy water? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I'll just go back to where I came from. I can not only dip in it, I can drink out of it if I want to. It just doesn't make sense sometimes. But that's where faith comes involved. You can decide that God is harsh or mean or absent or passive or whatever label you want to put on it. And you can live your life like that. And I'm going to tell you, in the life that I'm living and I've discerned at 67 years of age, is that I haven't figured it out and I need somebody who has. And I need to cling to somebody who has the answers, even when I don't understand the answer that I'm getting. I need somebody bigger than myself or anybody else I know that I can hold on to, that I can trust, that I can run to. And that no matter what answer I get, that I know that He is there and He's available and He has my heart in His hands because I have His heart in my hands. And there is a relationship here. And it's out of that relationship that everything else can make sense. It's out of that person working in our hearts and our lives. It's out of that presence and that power available to us. It is that resource. But you shall receive power when the Spirit has come upon you. It is Christ in us, the hope of glory. It is Christ in us, the peace that passes understanding. It is Christ in us who gives hope and help and the answers that we need to sustain us day by day and moment by moment, even when it's not the answer we were looking for. Maybe we just need a fresh dip of faith in God's Jordan. God's always speaking to us. He's always desiring. He never gives up on us. Would to Him that it would be, we would be like Jabez, who called on the God of Israel, saying, "Oh, that you would bless me indeed, and that you would enlarge my territory, that your hand would be with me, and that you would keep me from evil, that I may not cause pain." So God granted him what he wanted. What did Jabez say? Jabez says, "I got some good stuff here, God. But God, I want the best. God, I want you to enlarge my territory. I want you to use me. I want to be usable for your purpose. I don't want to cause pain. I want to do things that honor you. I want to take the next step. I want to be all that you want me to be." We need some more Calebs today. I'm proud of my Caleb. Caleb says they've gone into the land of Israel. It's been 45 years into the process of taking it over since they've come out. Caleb says, "Here I am this day, 85 years old. As yet I am as strong this day as on the day that Moses sent me here. Just as my strength was then, so now is my strength for war, both for going out and for coming in. Now therefore, give me this mountain on which the Lord spoke." It doesn't mean that there's not going to be some effort involved, but our desire has to be greater than even our effort to make it work. If we're going to move from good to the best in my life and your life, then we can't be satisfied. Caleb could have been satisfied. "God, you give me, we were on this side of the Jordan, and we're at peace right now, but there were still lands to be taken. There was still territory to be won." And even at 85 years of old, Caleb says, "God, give me that mountain. You promised it. I can do it because you have said it. And I'm ready. Enlarge my territory. Give me that mountain. I want the best. I want to follow you. I want to trust you. I want to see your hand at work in my life, and I want others to see your hand at work, that their lives may be changed." What's the result of all this? Naaman thought, I go back to the beginning, Naaman thought, well, here's my need. I need to be cured of leprosy. That was a need, but it wasn't his greatest need. He dipped 7 times, his flesh was restored, praise God, he got the good. Verse 15. "And he returned to the man of God, he and all his aides, and came and stood before him and said, Indeed, now I know that there is no God in all the earth, except in Israel. Now therefore, please take a gift from your servant." The greatest need that Naaman had was to worship the Lord his God, who became his God. Anything else was temporary. And by the way, let me remind each one of us in this place this morning that whatever you are going through right now is temporary. No matter how sharp the pain is, no matter how big the circumstance is, no matter how impossible it looks, everything in my life and your life is temporary. So there be there needs to be a place where you and I fall before the Lord our God. We humble ourselves before Him, the eternal God, and we receive His eternal promises to us, and that what is seen is temporary and what is not seen is eternal. And we begin to live for the best. The temporary can be good, but the eternal is the best. And we will live for the eternal. If we will understand we are eternal beings, if we will understand that everything that comes our way, for us and against us, comes through the grace and the goodness and the mercy of God. And God can use negative and positive, good and bad in my life and your life to mold us and shape us and increase our understanding of who He is, increase our faith, to help us on this journey He's called us to. But we have to come to a place of saying, God, I'm going to trust You. None of this makes sense. I'd like to fix it myself. I've tried to fix it myself, but I keep ending up in the same spot. And we just call out to the Lord our God and just say, God, I don't want to miss the miracle You have for me. I'm not going to settle for this. I'm not going to just let my life go, and I'm just not going to coast through this life. But I'm going to trust You with my life. That Your life, the exchange life, is going to make a difference here. And then God begins to do exceedingly abundantly more than we can ever ask for. Father, help us to lay ourselves down. Help us to sacrifice our lives that You call us to on Your altar, that we may receive the very life of Christ. That You may fill us, that You may well up in us, that You may accomplish in us whatever Your heart's desire is. Lord, a lot of folks in here this morning may need a fresh dip in the joy. A fresh dip of faith, a fresh dip of trusting and saying, God, I'm going to live in the promise. I'm not going to lay in the failure. Father, we need You. That's our greatest need. Speak in every heart, every life. Fill up every heart with Your presence. That's where the joy is. That's where the fulfillment is. That's where the satisfaction is. It is only in You and You alone. We've searched so hard to find it someplace else. And if we would be honest with ourselves, we have not attained seeking in those places. So this morning, let us hear Your heart. Let us adhere to Your word. Let's submit ourselves to You. And just trust the Lord who has given His very life, who shed His very blood to redeem us. You have chased us. Now help us to allow ourselves to be caught by the grace and mercy and goodness of our God. And Jesus, would you please stand? Maybe that you need to be in an attitude of prayer just now, maybe for you, maybe for your circumstances, maybe for your family, then you are doing that. You're praying and you're believing that the God of heaven is going to hear your heart just now. And by the way, He will. You reach out to Him, you draw near to Him, and He will draw near to you. Whatever your need is this morning, He will hear. This morning you may have come to an understanding, and you may be fighting with this for years and not sure if you're lost or saved. You can settle that this morning. You may be here this morning and you know you're lost. You know that you've been going through the motions for years. You know that you don't have a relationship with Christ. And you know that you have suffered with that, trying to find avenues to bring relief to your life. There's none but a spiritual encounter with God that will do that. We invite you to receive Him this morning. We will share with you how you can receive Him this morning. This invitation is for each and every person in here this morning, that we are seeking God and we're allowing Him to minister in our lives and take us wherever He wants to take us.